Good morning. Good to see you all. Y'all looking good. Well, for the most part. The hour for convening having arrived, all members will please take their seats. Please take your seats. Mr. Clerk, if you'll ring the bell. We're going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. As is our custom, we will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 145th House District down in Musella, Georgia, Chairman Robert Dickey. Chairman Dickey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's my pleasure this morning to introduce our chaplain. It's Dr. Owen Bozeman. And he brought his lovely wife, Debbie, here this morning, who's here, and great to have her. He is presently my pastor at Musella Baptist Church, and Dr. Owen Bozeman was called to pastor early in his life, and a native of Pensacola. He and his wife been married 43 years, 2 children and 4 grandchildren. But he's got degrees from Sanford University and Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. And he was the lead pastor for 21 years at Central Baptist Church in Warner Robins. And Warner Robins is a growing place. And his church, Central, grew. And Chairman Shaw Blackman is still a member there, grew up there. And so Owen pastored Chairman Blackman, I'm sure, very well over there. But a few years ago, Dr. Bozeman retired and has been preaching, teaching, mentoring, and leading various churches throughout Middle Georgia. And he's a great asset that God sent him to Musella. You know, Musella is not a big place, except maybe on the weekends during peach season. And our church, Musella Baptist Church, is not a big church, but we do big things throughout Crawford County, spreading the gospel. And so lucky to have Dr. Bozeman there. I don't know how long. I hope it won't be. I hope it'll be a long time. But I'm so glad he could come today. Dr. Bozeman, come.
Good to have you.
Thank you so much. Well, good morning. Thank you, Chairman Dickey, our representative for District 145, for introducing me. Kind words. Robert and his wife Cindy are very, very active and faithful and humble, hard workers and laborers at Musella Baptist, and we are so thankful for their friendship. Thank you, Speaker John Burns, and your office for the gracious invitation to be here today. Special greetings to Shaw Blackman, who serves District 146, the area of my home, and of course, he is in my home church. And I say to you, Shaw, and to all of those who serve our Middle Georgia area as representatives, thank you for your support of the ongoing mission of Robins Air Force Base, a great economic engine for our entire state, and especially Middle Georgia, and a vital point for the security and peace of our nation and world. I live so close to the base that every morning I hear reveille, every afternoon the national anthem, and every evening at 10 o'clock taps. And those are the sounds of freedom and also the sacrifice that makes that freedom possible. I want to give a special greeting to one of our keepers of the door today. Tom Brown is here and at the back door, and he is the older brother of my brother-in-law, Paul. And I wanted to mention that, and he and his wife, Betty, are here today. And to all of you in the house, thank you for your labors of love and sacrifice and all that you do to keep Georgia growing, the United States and the world we collectively impact. It's a very special honor to be with you today. I wanted to read from Exodus 15, verses 22 through 25. Then Moses led Israel from the Red Sea, and they went out into the desert of Shur. For 3 days they traveled into the desert without finding water. When they came to Marah, they could not drink its water because it was bitter. That is why the place is called Marah. So the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What are we to drink?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood, and he threw that wood into the water, and the water became sweet. You know, the setting of that text is not unlike the world in which we live and the sphere of influence in which you are called to operate in this house. The children of Israel had just come off a mighty victory in Egypt, but only 3 days out into their journey, their attitude was, "What have you done for me lately?" Whether in the church or in the state, we do serve people, but on any given day, we may hear the people grumble. And if it involves something essential, the grumbling can escalate into a bitter chorus of complaining and blaming. I think we're living in some of the most bitter times in our nation and in our world. What can we do to make those better? Well, enter Moses. You know, Moses was a great leader, but even great leaders can get frustrated. My oldest granddaughter, Olivia, loves to tell me jokes and stump me with riddles. And last week, she asked me this question: who is the greatest sinner in the Bible? And that's in my wheelhouse. I thought I should know that. And my thoughts quickly went from the Old Testament Jezebel to the New Testament Judas. But her answer was Moses. And I asked her why, and she said, "Because Papa, he broke all the commandments." And indeed, when he came down off that mount with the law of God codified in stone, and he saw what the people were doing in his absence, he became angry and frustrated and threw those on the ground, figuratively breaking every law. You know, I think that's a parable for our times. We're hearing and seeing lived out a lot of bitterness, not just because of essential needs not being met, but essential laws that are not being kept. When we hear and read again about gun violence and mass shootings, it seems we've forgotten a simple law: you shall not kill, or more accurately, you shall not murder. In watching the disintegration of the family, we've forgotten honor your father and your mother. Truth has become even more of a rare commodity because we've forgotten and not understood the words, "You shall not lie, and you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor." And whether it involves a petty theft or the violation of the boundaries of a sovereign nation, we have forgotten laws like "you shall not steal" and "you shall not covet what belongs to your neighbor." We must revisit these shattered laws and reteach them to our children, that the next generation may understand the difference between right and wrong. But where do we start? You know, when I look at Moses in our text today, the first thing he did was cry out to God. He prayed. And prayer is always essential. Thank you for having this time of prayer and devotion every day when you meet. In Jeremiah 33:3, God says, "Call upon me, and I will show you great and mighty things you know not of." Within our story, Moses calls upon the Lord. He prays, and the Lord shows him something great, just a piece of wood. And he took that piece of wood and he threw it in the waters, and the waters became sweet, and the people could drink. I think a point is, in facing the bitterness of our times, if we pray, God will show us something close at hand, something within our reach to take in hand and help turn bitter waters sweet again in our society. Maybe it's kind words spoken or written, acts of kindness, or a hand that's reached across this aisle, or maybe across an ocean in cooperation. It may become your life's work. I want to mention someone today who's on all of our minds, and it's former U.S. President and former governor of our state, Jimmy Carter. You know, he's kind of like a Moses figure in our state and really in our nation. Jimmy Carter became president at one of the most bitter times in our nation's history, and it did involve water, Watergate. And for a short season, President Carter entered into the bitter waters of our nation at that time and helped us turn the page from that bitterness and make things sweet again. During his presidency, like Moses, he was an intermediary between Egypt and Israel, helping to broker a peace at Camp David. Of course, we know the last couple of years of his term of service was filled with domestic and international crisis, and it engulfed the latter part of his presidency, and he suffered a very bitter defeat for re-election. And then going home to Plains, he found the family business in tatters. It was a bitter time. But being a man of faith, Jimmy Carter cried out to God, and God showed him a piece of wood. Jimmy Carter is a wonderful carpenter, and God transformed his avocation as a carpenter into an ambassador for Habitat for Humanity, building homes for the homeless. And this is only the beginning of the most prolific postlude in United States presidency, which included a Nobel Peace Prize. Jimmy Carter is a wonderful example of someone who could enter the most bitter of waters and make them better. And we're praying for President and Mrs. Carter, amen? In what appeared to be his last days under hospice care, may they be sweet indeed. But in closing, let us be reminded of another carpenter whose initials are JC. Jesus Christ entered into the bitter waters of this sinful world 2,000 years ago. He came to embody and live out the very laws of God that God gave us. And after 3 years of earthly ministry, he cried out in the Garden of Gethsemane, and God showed him a piece of wood, a tree, an old rugged cross. And facing that bitter cup, Jesus said, "Not my will, but thine be done." And in this season of Lent, let us be reminded of his sacrifice, his blood shed for us, his life given for us, that the bitterness of sin might be removed and we might be forgiven. And just as the Israelites were 3 days in the desert, Jesus was 3 days in the tomb. But he rose victoriously over death, that we may experience the living water of abundant life on earth and eternal life in heaven in the sweet by and by. Jesus is the ultimate example of turning something bitter into something better and sweeter. And that is why, in the words of the hymn writer, Jesus is the sweetest name I know, and he's just the same as his lovely name. And that's the reason why I love him so, for Jesus is the sweetest name I know. Would you join me in prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to this representative body for our state. 180 seats filled with strong men and women. Bless them as they often serve against a backdrop of bitter complaining and blaming. Yet help them to know that it is within their reach to say something and do something positive to transform bitter waters and make them better, if not sweet. And help them to know that their collective potential to empower our state and even our nation to do a 180 and turn the people away from bitterness and division toward goals that make us all better. And we do thank you today for President Jimmy Carter and his precious wife, Rosalind, and their family as they count down precious final days together. May you comfort them and help them to know of our love. Lord, bless our great state of Georgia, and God, please bless these United States of America. In the sweet name of Jesus, I do pray it. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Great job. Wow.
Thank you, Pastor Bozeman. That was quite a message. Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Members may greet Pastor Bozeman in the South Anteroom for a photo if you like.
Watch it with that piece of wood.
We have a lot to do today, so we have to get started. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information Audits, is recognized. Chairman Tarvin.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal from the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And something else we need to think about, the age-old problem, if the glass half full or half empty. All of this time I had missed the point that the glass is refillable.
That's a good one. I think you're absolutely correct. And we're going to try to fill that glass today too. Chairman Tarvin, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to dispense with the reading of the journal? The chair hears none. The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day?
Representative Stration, in the 104th moves following be established as the order of business under first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. first reading of bills and resolutions, the clerk will read.
House Bill 638 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st. A bill be titled Act to Amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding law enforcement officers and agencies.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 639 by Representative Saints of the 180th, Kelly of the 16th, Chocus of the 151st, and LaHood of the 175th. The bill be titled Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to ad valorem taxation of property.
Ways and
House Bill
Means.
640 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st and Hitchens of the 161st. Bill be titled Act to Amend Part 2 of Article 2, Chapter 3, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the university system.
Higher Education.
House Bill 641 by Representative Bentley, the 150th, Bennett of the 94th, Gilliard, the 162nd, Sharper, the 177th, Willis, the 55th, and others. Bill be titled Act to Amend Code Section 23-411 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to definitions regarding tuition equalization grants.
Higher Education.
House Bill 642 by Representative Ridley, the 22nd, Byrd of the 20th, Thomas, the 21st, Jaspers, the 11th, Carson, the 46th, and others. Bill be titled Act to establish the Board of Elections and Registration for Cherokee County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 643 by Representative Bruce, the 61st, Miller, the 62nd, Glaze, the 67th, Jones, the 60th, Thomas, the 65th, and others. Bill be titled Act to Amend Chapter 23 of Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to Georgia Judicial Retirement System.
Retirement.
House Bill 644 by Representative Ridley of the 22nd, Byrd of the 20th, Thomas the 21st, Jaspers the 11th, Carson the 46th, and others. The bill being titled Act to Amend and Act creating the Board of Elections and Registration for Cherokee County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 645 by Representative Yurt of the 152nd. A bill being titled Act to Amend and Act to provide a new charter for the city of Sylvester.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 646 by Representative Schofield of the 63rd, Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th. Bill being titled Act to Amend Part 15, Article 6, Chapter 2, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to miscellaneous provisions under the Quality Basic Education Act.
Education.
House Bill 647 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Schofield of the 63rd, Davis of the 87th. Bill be titled Act to Amend Article 2, Chapter 1, Title 42 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to Sexual Offender Registration Review Board.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 648 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th, Schofield of the 63rd. Bill be titled Act to Amend Article 1 of Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to public assistance.
Public and Community Health.
House Bill 649 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, Lumpson of the 12th, Barton of the 5th. Bill be titled Act to Amend and Act providing for the compensation of the members of the County Board of Education of Floyd County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 650 by Representative Williams, the 168th, Stevens, the 164th, Bonner, the 73rd, Glaze, the 67th, Jackson, the 128th. Bill be titled Act to Amend Chapter 10 of Title 43, the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to barbers and cosmetologists.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 651 by Representative Seaball, the 34th, Hitchens, the 161st, Williams, the 37th, Stevens, the 164th, Scoggins, the 14th, and others. Bill be titled Act to Amend Code Section 3660-24 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to sale or use or ignition of consumer firework products.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 652 by Representative Maynard, the 56th, Smith of the 138th, Daniel, the 117th, Moore, the 91st, Ballard, the 147th. Bill be titled Act to Amend Chapter 2, Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to elementary and secondary education.
Education.
House Bill 653 by Representative Bonner, the 73rd, Jaspers to the 11th, Jones the 25th, Newton the 127th, Taylor the 173rd, and others. Bill be titled an Act to Amend Chapter 1 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to professions and businesses.
Public and Community Health.
House Bill 654 by Representative Dempsey, the 13th, Williams, the 148th, Corbett, the 174th, Smith, the 138th, Buckner, the 137th. Bill be titled an Act to Amend Code Section 12.839 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to waste management cost reimbursement fees.
Natural Resources and Environment.
House Bill 655 by Representative Stevens, the 164th. The bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to fees and taxes.
Insurance.
House Bill 656 by Representative Reeves, the 99th Taylor, the 173rd Campbell, the 171st Green, and the 154th Kelly, the 16th, and others. The bill be titled Act to amend Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to crimes and offenses.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 657 by Representative Neal, the 79th, Stoner, the 40th, Gilliard, the 162nd. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to law enforcement officers and agencies generally.
Public Safety and Homeland Security.
House Bill 658 by Representative Schofield, the 63rd, Scott of the 76th, Davis of the 87th. Bill be titled an Act to amend Code Section 35-119 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to disclosure, arrest, booking, photographs prohibited.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 659 by Representative Parrish, the 158th. The bill be titled an Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 24, Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions regarding insurance.
Special Committee on Health Care.
House Bill 660 by Representative Parrish, the 158th. The bill be titled an Act to amend Code Section 31-2-8 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to actions against certain applicants or licensees.
Special Committee on Health Care.
House Bill 661 by Representative Parrish, the 158th. The bill be titled an Act to amend Code Section 49-4-159 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to Medicaid coverage for lactation and postpartum care.
Special Committee on Health Care.
House Resolution 385 by Representative Hagan of the 156th, a resolution recognizing Mr. R.T. Stanley Jr. and dedicating a road in his honor.
Transportation.
House Resolution 386 by Representative Crowe of the 118th, and a resolution honoring the life of Congressman Matt Collins and dedicating an interchange in his memory.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 32 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st, Robertson of the 29th, Gooch of the 51st, Kennedy the 18th, Brass of the 28th, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Article 11 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to public school property and facilities.
Education.
Senate Bill 46 by Senator Hostetler of the 52nd, Butler of the 55th, Watson of the 1st, Hickman of the 4th, Williams of the 25th, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 17 to Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to control of sexually transmitted disease.
Public and Community Health.
Senate Bill 86 by Senator Brass of the 28th, Sims of the 12th, Gooch of the 51st, Anna Duarte of the 31st, Kennedy the 18th, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to education.
Higher Education.
Senate Bill 107 by Senator Burns, the 23rd, Jones, the 22nd, Still of the 48th, Kennedy of the 18th, Gooch of the 51st, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to health.
Public and Community Health.
Senate Bill 131 by Senator Tillery, the 19th, Hatchett of the 50th, Dugan of the 30th, Harbin of the 16th, Cowser of the 46th, and others. Bill be titled an Act to amend Part 13 of Article 3, Chapter 11 of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to permanent guardianship.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 133 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd.
Clerk will suspend.
133. Okay.
Thank you, members. Continue.
Senate Bill 133 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Burns of the 23rd, Dugan of the 30th, Gooch of the 51st, and others. The bill be titled an Act to amend Chapter 11 and Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Juvenile Code.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 134 by Senator Cowser of the 46th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Kennedy the 18th, Gooch of the 51st, Strickland of the 17th, and others. A bill to be entitled an Act to amend Title 24 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to evidence.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 135 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Hatchett of the 50th, Kennedy the 18th, Strickland of the 17th, Gooch of the 51st, and others. Be titled an Act to amend Article 3, Chapter 7, and Title 19 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to determination of paternity.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Bill 216 by Senator Brass, the 28th, Redd of the 33rd, Walker, the 20th, Robertson of the 29th, Estevez of the 6th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to children and youth services.
Juvenile Justice.
Senate Resolution 175 by Senator Brass, the 28th, Anderson, the 24th, Burns, the 23rd, Dugan of the 30th, Kennedy, the 18th, and others.
Education.
That completes first readers.
I'm just kind of hanging out. I don't know about y'all. That ante room over there is not full. I hate to point. I know it's impolite, but that's not full. So if you have a conversation that you need to complete on something we're taking up today, I suggest that you find that door or that door or that door and go have that conversation. We're going to move on now to second readers. Clerk will read.
House Bill 618 by Representative Gladney of the 130th, Cannon of the 172nd, Williams of the 168th, McLean of the 109th, Corbett of the 174th, and others. A bill relating to prestige license plates and special plates for certain persons and vehicles. House Bill 619 by Representative Houston of the 170th. A bill to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Cook County. House Bill 620 by Representative Scoggins of the 14th and Gamble of the 15th. A bill to amend an act providing for the compensation of the Chief Magistrate Court of Bartow County. House Bill 621 by Representative Scoggins of the 14th and Gamble of the 15th. A bill to amend an act creating the Office of Tax Commissioner of Bartow County. House Bill 622 by Representative Gamble of the 15th and Scoggins of the 14th. A bill to amend an act to provide a homestead exemption from certain Bartow County ad valorem taxes. House Bill 623 by Representative Gamble of the 15th and Scoggins of the 14th. A bill to amend an act placing certain to county officers of Bartow County upon the annual salary. House Bill 624 by Representative Gamble of the 15th and Scoggins of the 14th. A bill to amend an act creating the Office of Commissioner of Bartow County. House Bill 625 by Representative Mathis of the 149th, Wade of the 9th, Gullett of the 19th, Bentley of the 150th, Taylor of the 173rd, and others. A bill relating to coroners. House Bill 626 by Representative Williamson of the 112th, Fleming of the 114th, Martinez of the 111th, and Crow of the 118th. A bill relating to imposition rate, computation, exemptions, and credits relative to income tax. House Bill 627 by Representative Taylor of the 92nd, Fry of the 122nd, Schofield of the 63rd, Davis of the 87th, Oliver of the 82nd, and others. A bill relating to landlord and tenant in general. House Bill 628 by Representative Reeves of the 99th, Evans of the 57th, Hong of the 103rd, Lem of the 98th, Carson of the 46th. A bill relating to exemptions for purposes of bankruptcy and interstate insolvent estates. House Bill 629 by Representative Beverly of the 143rd, Park of the 107th, Mitchell of the 88th, and Roberts of the 52nd. A bill relating to medical assistance. House Bill 630 by Representative Lem of the 98th, Bazemore of the 69th, Fry of the 122nd, Lupton of the 83rd, Clark of the 108th, and others. A bill relating to provisions applicable to the Department of Banking and Finance and financial institutions generally. House Bill 631 by Representative Parrish of the 158th, the bill to amend an act incorporating the city of Swainsboro. House Bill 632 by Representative Crawford of the 84th, Oliver of the 82nd, Drenner of the 85th, Evans of the 89th. A bill to amend an act providing a homestead exemption from certain city of Decatur ad valorem taxes. House Bill 633 by Representative Crawford of the 84th, Oliver of the 82nd, Drenner of the 85th, Evans of the 89th. A bill to amend an act providing certain homestead exemptions from city of Decatur ad valorem taxes. House Bill 634 by Representative Crawford of the 84th, Oliver of the 82nd, Drenner of the 85th, Evans of the 89th. A bill to provide a new homestead exemption from city of Decatur ad valorem taxes. House Bill 635 by Representative Crawford of the 84th, Oliver of the 82nd, Drenner of the 85th, Evans of the 89th. The bill to amend an act providing a homestead exemption from city of Decatur ad valorem taxes. House Bill 636 by Representative Crow of the 118th. A bill relating to elections and primaries. House Bill 637 by Representative Hitchens of the 161st, Stevens of the 164th, a bill relating to regulation of fireworks. House Resolution 348 by Representative Silcox of the 53rd, Evans of the 57th, Holland of the 54th, a resolution creating a House Study Committee on excessive vehicle noise and related crimes. House Resolution 349 by Representative Moore of the 91st, a resolution recognizing the Honorable Thomas E. Brown, dedicating a bridge in his honor. Senate Bill 19 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Summers of the 13th, Setzler of the 37th, Albers of the 56th, Gann of the 47th, and others, a bill relating to the courts. Senate Bill 83 by Senator Jackson of the 41st, Strickland of the 17th, Jones II of the 22nd, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, a bill relating to stalking. Senate Bill 128 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Robertson of the 29th, Duggan of the 30th, Payne of the 54th, and Duarte of the 31st, and others, a bill to amend the Public Retirement System Investment Authority law. Senate Bill 149 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Estevez of the 6th, Goodman of the 8th, Gooch of the 51st, Watson of the 11th, and others, a bill related to sales under the Commercial Code. Senate Bill 169 by Senator Payne of the 54th, Dixon of the 45th, Robertson of the 29th, and Duarte of the 31st, Hickman of the 4th, and others, a bill relating to procedure to be followed by disciplinary officer, panel, or tribunal in public schools and review. Senate Bill 170 by Senator Albers of the 56th, Dixon of the 45th, Robertson of the 29th, Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Still of the 48th, and others, a bill relating to elementary and secondary education. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees the clerk will read.
Representative Meeks of the 178th District, Chairman on Committee on Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Budget and Fiscal Affairs Oversight has had under its consideration the following bills of the House. It's instructed me to report same back to the House the following recommendations. House Bill 581 do pass. House Bill 611 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Meeks of the 178th District, Chairman. Representative Chris Irwin of the 32nd District, Chairman of the Committee on Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Education has had under its consideration the following bill of the House. Instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 340 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Chris Irwin of the 32nd District, Chairman. Representative John LaHood of the 175th District, Chairman of the Committee on Governmental Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Governmental Affairs had under its consideration following bill of the House. It's instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 514 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative John LaHood of the 175th District, Chairman. Representative Chuck Martin of the 49th District, Chairman on Committee on Higher Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Higher Education has had under its consideration following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 228 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 392 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 605 do pass. House Bill 607 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Chuck Martin of the 49th District, Chairman. Representative Bill Werkhuis of the 157th District, Chairman on Committee on Industry and Labor, submitted the following report. The Speaker, Committee on Industry and Labor has had under its consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with following recommendations. House Bill 282 do pass. House Bill 501 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 556 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Bill Werkhuis of the 157th District, Chairman. Representative Beth Camp of the 135th District, Chairman on Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals had under its consideration the following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 492 do pass. House Bill 539 do pass. House Bill 547 do pass. House Bill 569 do pass. House Bill 580 do pass. House Bill 586 do pass. House Bill 596 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Beth Camp of the 135th District, Chairman. Representative Tyler Paul Smith of the 18th District, Chairman on Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civils had under its consideration following bills of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 188 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 218 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 219 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 334 do pass. House Bill 383 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 181 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 231 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 126 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 446 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Tyler Paul Smith of the 18th District, Chairman. Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman of the Committee on Motor Vehicles, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Motor Vehicles has had under its consideration the following bill of the House and instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 348 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative John Corbett of the 174th District, Chairman. Representative Alan Powell of the 33rd District, Chairman of the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Regulated Industries has had under its consideration the following bill of the House. Has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 473 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Alan Powell of the 33rd District, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of the standing committees.
Members, we do have a local calendar. We do have a local calendar. Third reading and passage on uncontested local bills. Okay, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 492 by Representative Powell of the 33rd, City of Hartwell. House Bill 539 by Representative Leverett of the 123rd, Wilkes County. House Bill 547 by Representative Hatchett of the 155th, City of East Dublin. House Bill 569 by Representative Stevens of the 164th, Bryan County. House Bill 580 by Representative Collins of the 71st, Carroll County. House Bill 586 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Haralson County. House Bill 596 by Representative Green of the 154th, Randolph County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. For what purpose does Representative Carpenter rise? He waves. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 170, the nays 0. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. We do have morning orders. Now, I'm not going to put you on a time limit because we have a lot of things to do today, but there are a number of you, so I hope you'll all be mindful of our further opportunities to do the people's work. We'll start by recognizing Representative Nulowitz and the Cobb delegation. Representative Terry Nulowitz and the Cobb delegation recognized for a morning order.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to all of the members who are with me from the Cobb County Legislative Delegation. It is my honor and delight this morning to recognize in the gallery Miss Cobb Ludwig Lulu Luzer and Miss Teen Cobb Charlie Key. They are up there, and we're thrilled to have them with us today. The delegation is going to be presenting them with these honoring resolutions in the South Anteroom. I also wanted to recognize Representative Terry Cummings, who cannot be here with us today, and she was wonderful in inviting you to be here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative, and welcome to the People's House. We appreciate you ladies being here. Thank you. Representative Derek McCullum is recognized for a morning order. And friends, at least one friend, two friends, three,
Thank you,
four.
Mr. Speaker.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of you. Go ahead there, Representative. You're loading it up, man.
I come before you to present resolution for my second family's here today in the Capitol. Today is Emergency Medical Service Recognition Day at the Capitol. Georgia EMS has been celebrating 49 years of service in Georgia. There's 26,000 EMS personnel in Georgia. A lot of these people in the gallery are my friends and family, EMS family. I got a couple of battalion chiefs here and that I work for, and I encourage you to look up when they're going to be in the Capitol today. Look up possibly your chief or one of the guys that work in your district, and take time with them. And these guys risk their lives and every day to protect and serve our community. They definitely are public servants and have a servant's heart. And I want to thank them for coming in today. And thank y'all. I appreciate it. If y'all would stand, everybody that's here for EMS Day. Possibly, if you would like to, you come into the anteroom over here. Hopefully, you can get pictures with your representative. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I think we know when we all run away from danger, those folks head that way to protect and serve their fellow man. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here. Representative Gamble. Well, maybe that's Campbell. G's and C's. Representative Campbell. Representative Lisa Campbell. My apologies, Representative Campbell. I know your name, and I know you. You have the will. You're recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. This morning I'd like to welcome to our great General Assembly here the North Cobb High School, City of Ackworth, young aldermen and women. Would you stand? And would you all stand and recognize them with me and welcome them here as they learn about the work that we're doing here to improve all Georgians. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Representative. That was nice to recognize. And welcome to the People's House. Representative Bazemore is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And colleagues, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Jermaine Johnson, who is in the well. He is a manager and a producer at Beverly Hills-based 3 Arts Entertainment. Jermaine Johnson has spent over 10 years building an impressive client roster in Los Angeles, New York, and Chicago, and recently featured in the Hollywood Reporter's 35 Under 35 Next Gen 2020. He is initially spearheading 3 arts, entertainments, expansions into Atlanta, Georgia. And he represents a wide variety of writers, directors, journalists, and comedians from many different backgrounds. Please help me to welcome him to our house.
Welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Bazemore. We're going to recognize our Doctor of the Day, and for that purpose, we're going to call up Dr. Reiser. Did I get that right? Dr. Reiser and Chair Lady Silcox for the purpose of an introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to introduce Dr. Randy Reiser this morning. He is a regular Doctor of the Day here and appreciate his loyal service not only to his patients but to our chambers here at the Georgia Capitol. He is the founding partner of Physician Spine and Rehabilitation Specialist in Sandy Springs. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa from Bates and received his Doctor of Medicine degree from the University of Toledo. And he completed a residency in anesthesiology from Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center and received his subspecialty certification in pain management from the American Board of Anesthesiology in 1993, and he recertified in 2005. Dr. Reiser has been named one of Atlanta's top docs by Atlanta Magazine and one of the top doctors in the country by U.S. News and World Report. He is a member of the Chairman's Advisory Council of the Georgia State Board of Workers' Compensation and is the current president of the Medical Association of Atlanta. In response to the events of 9/11, Dr. Reiser volunteered to join the U.S. Army Reserve. He currently holds the rank of colonel in the Medical Corps. He has served on active duty in Kosovo in 2004, and Iraq in 2007 and 8, and 2011. Finally, Dr. Reiser received the Jack A. Raines Humanitarian Award from the Medical Association of Georgia in 2018 in recognition of his outstanding charitable mission work. Please welcome Dr. Randy Reiser.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker and Representative Silcox, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And it's really an honor to be here today to serve you. And I want to thank you for all you do to preserve what I think is the most important thing in guaranteeing the health of our population, and that is supporting and maintaining the doctor-patient relationship. Also, as a veteran, I want to thank you for everything that you do in this chamber to support our veterans and our families. I look forward to being of any service that I can to you today. Thank you very much.
Dr. Reiser, you serve your fellow man in so many different capacities, serving our country, serving us today and your patients. We're truly grateful for you taking time to be here, and thank you for your service, and may God continue to bless you. Chairman Prince is recognized for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is Kappa Alpha Psi Day in the Georgia State House. The brothers were here earlier, then they've gone off. Again, Kappa was founded January the 5th, 1911, and our main goal is achievement in every field of human endeavor. So if you see guys walking around in red jackets, please greet them on behalf of this great house. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Okoye is recognized for a morning order. Here he comes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to recognize a group of people today that we all know about, but for the most part, we don't speak much about them. By name, I'm recognizing Mary Alexander, Gerald Arrington, Valene Bennett, Tom Brown, Terry Ellington, Ken Dooley, Sharon Embry, Doug Ellis, Shepard Green, Pat Hale, Donna Holt, Cassandra Howard, Hughes Melvin, T.J. Jones, Willie Jones, Al McClendon, Felice Manor, Frank Sears, Bruce Sims, Chip Stewart, and Ann Whitehead. Ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Speaker, I also, because I'm small in stature, I also have to recognize Curry Mulkey. These, ladies and gentlemen, are our doorkeepers. Can we please applaud them for the great job they do here? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. The House would not be the House without our doorkeepers. Thank you for your service. That completes our morning orders. We're ready to move on to the rules calendar. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB 327?
House Bill 327 by Representative Cameron, the first, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16622 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to incest so as to include step-grandparent and step-grandchild relationship. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Let's give the gentleman in the well our full attention. Representative Cameron is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. Today I bring you HB 327. This case comes from Northwest Georgia, from our judicial area, where we had a case with a young lady who moved in with her grandmother and stepfather. Subsequently, he decided to initiate a relationship with this young lady. When it was discovered, there were attempts to prosecute him, and under the law, step-grandchild is not covered under Georgia incest law. This bill adds one word to include that. That's the bill. We just need to send a message that we're going to protect our young people against this, and we're going to send a message that if you do this, there is a penalty on this earth. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members now voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 166, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 163? 163.
House Bill 163 by Representative McDonald, the 26th, and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 10 of Title 49 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the Georgia Board of Health Care Workforce so as to provide for student loan repayment for medical examiners employed by the Division of Forensic Sciences of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Higher Education. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Lauren McDaniel is recognized to present the bill. McDonald. Did I say McDaniel? I know a McDaniel. You're a McDonald. I'm so apologize. Representative McDonald to present the bill. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring you House Bill 163, a student loan repayment plan for medical examiners. This bill is a much-needed incentive to recruit and retain medical examiners to the state of Georgia. Currently, the state is staffed with 9 full-time medical examiners, 2 part-time, serving a population of almost 11 million people. This is impacting every community in our state. Many of us have received calls asking for help of some kind in resolving this issue. These 9 Georgia pathologists are carrying an overloaded caseload because of this shortage. This is not just a Georgia problem, this is a national problem. The governor and the Georgia legislature are now working together on bringing resolve to this issue. This program is being administered by the Georgia Student Finance Authority and is included in the governor's amended FY23 and FY24 budget. Mr. Speaker, I yield for any questions.
You do have a question if the gentleman yields.
Gentleman yields.
Representative Byrd from the 20th, right out in front of you, has a question. Representative Byrd.
Thank you very much. Does the gentleman yield?
Gentleman yields.
Is it not true all student loan forgiveness is paid by taxpayer money?
That is true, if the lady so states, but it's also, this loan repayment is an investment back in our medical examiners. It's kind of a bonus that stair-stepped over 5 years, that they have to stay here and complete those 5 years to be able to get the complete amount.
And is it not, further yield? And is it not true that everyone outside this gold dome who has student debt would like forgiveness as well?
If the lady feels that way.
Thank you.
Gentleman yield for a question from Chairman Bill Hitchens to your left.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that in Georgia now we have no forensic pathologists in Macon or Savannah, and we're direly short, and it inhibits the criminal justice system from moving forward when you can't get the evidence?
It not only inhibits that, but it also hurts these families that are waiting on their loved ones to get back because of the time that it takes from traveling from Savannah, from Valdosta, and the cost to those communities.
Will you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that there are over 1,000 medical examiner positions in this United States, and there are only 500 certified forensic pathologists?
That is true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman yield for a couple more.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman from the 172nd. He's been here a short time, but he's has some pretty good questions.
Does the gentleman
Representative
yield?
Chase Cannon is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Gentleman yields.
Is it not true that county coroners in the southern part of the state have to drive or spend 1 or 2 days or 3 days transporting bodies to Atlanta rather than to Macon?
As the gentleman states, yes.
Is it further not true? Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Is it further not true that this bill would potentially lower the cost for county coroners exponentially?
The gentleman knows what he speaks.
Gentleman yield to Representative Al Williams, right out in front of you. Representative Williams.
The man from Midway.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that an investment of this nature would return greatly the forgiveness that's given?
The gentleman knows what he speaks.
Is it not further true that many times there are huge delays in funerals, and it's very difficult because we've not been able to get the information needed back from the medical examiners, and it's a desperate situation, and we certainly can't put a dollar amount on this.
You're so correct, sir. For your community, it's good. Doing this is going to change everything in the state of Georgia and recruit and retain these medical examiners.
Let's hear a question from the gentleman, the chairman from which this issue arose. Representative Martin has a question.
Gentleman yield for a question.
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true, while this does involve loan repayment, the state is getting a value in exchange for that?
Yes, sir. The gentleman already speaks.
For the yield?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that that's quite a bit different from a blanket loan repayment just because I went into debt, you owe us the money?
That is true, sir.
Further yield?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it further true that the governor's plan to do this and make it a loan repayment has the money go straight to the loan repayment rather than paying it to the medical examiner, so one couldn't take that money and do something else and still claim I have debt? This is a direct repayment for value. Isn't it true that this is a direct repayment for value to the taxpayers of Georgia, and it is an investment into this profession so that Georgians can be better served?
That is true, and that's why it's going to this Georgia Student Finance Committee, so that that doesn't happen and these loans are paid back and protected.
We have another speaker on this subject. There are a couple of questions out there, but I saw the questions right now for you, Mr. Floor Leader. So we'll move on to another speaker if you will yield the well.
Gentleman yields it well and asks for your favorable consideration on this very important issue. Thank you.
Floor Leader McDonald has yielded the well. My friend from the coast, Representative Edna Jackson, is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To all of my colleagues that are here, I asked if I could speak to this bill. 2 weeks prior to Christmas, my first grandnephew was shot in the head by a young man that wanted to steal his car. His mother, my niece, did not know about it until later. He was shot in the morning, but they didn't know because they thought he was home sewing. He was a graduate of SCAD and was a designer. The only reason that we found out who shot my grandnephew was because the young man that took the car was caught trying to change the plates on the car, but we thank God that he's in jail. It took us 2 weeks before we could get a coroner. 2 weeks because they were not available. Not only that, they had to take the body from Savannah, Georgia to Macon, Georgia, and my niece wanted that body, her son's body, buried before Christmas. That is why I'm asking you to support this bill. There are other families, car accidents where multiple people are killed, and they need to have a coroner to declare the reason. I ask all of you. I never thought I would experience something like this, and it's still hard on the family. Please join me in voting to pass this bill so that we can make sure that people that are going into that area will have the finances to finish their degree so that our families will not have to suffer. I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. This entire body is certainly sympathetic to your family's loss, and thank you for sharing that with us. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Chair hears none. The committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Chairman Collins rise?
I waive.
He waives. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 172, the nays are 1. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB 373? HB 373.
House Bill 373 by Representative Jones of the 60th and others, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 4, Title 1 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, relating to holidays and observances, so as to designate September 11th of each year as First Responders Appreciation Day in Georgia. This bill having referred to the Committee on Special Rules, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Sheila Jones is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. I present to you HB 373, which is a bipartisan bill, and it seeks to designate September 11th of each year as First Responders Day here in Georgia. Today, we recognize as EMT's Day here at the state capitol. First responders often put their lives on the line each day when we dial 911. Police and firefighters have no guarantee when they answer a call if they will make it home safe or without injury. EMTs must be on call 24 hours to help rescue Georgians experiencing a medical crisis, and the pay for these responders do not equal the risk they take when answering the call to 911. The importance of the work of the first responders in Georgia should be honored in a day of recognition and appreciation each year on September the 11th, a day where residents can show gratitude and support community heroes who answered the call when they called 911. Colleagues, I ask for your favorable vote on HB 373. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I yield the well.
The lady has no question and she's yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Representative Sharp arise?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it not true?
Do you have an inquiry?
Yeah, parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that I've been a Georgia certified paramedic now for over 30 years, and I'm presently also certified, and I really support this bill, and I really appreciate everybody here for supporting this bill. So thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you for your service here, but also thank you for your service at home. It's most appreciated. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 173, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Congratulations, Representative Jones. Thank you. we're getting ready to call two bills that will require a 2/3 vote by this body for passage. So we need all of the members to pay attention to the presenter in the well, to the representative in the well, when they come up. The first one is HB 31. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB 31?
House Bill 31 by Representative Buckner, the 137th, to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 3 of Chapter 8 and Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to hazardous site response, so as to dedicate the proceeds of certain hazardous waste fees to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund as authorized and subject to the conditions of the Constitution. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Debbie Buckner is recognized to present the bill. Representative Buckner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, it's my privilege to come and bring this bill again. This bill passed out of the House last year 165-0. What the bill does is it says that the hazardous waste fees that are collected will be dedicated to be used to the Hazardous Waste Trust Fund to be used to clean up hazardous waste. Say that 3 times fast. But it is a bill that is needed. There are communities all across our state that have hazardous waste sites that need to be cleaned up, and this will dedicate more funds for EPD to have available to clean those sites up. So I ask for your favorable consideration to dedicate these fees. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield for questions.
The lady has no questions.
Good, thank you. I appreciate your favorable consideration.
The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 172, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 96, H.R. 96?
House Resolution 96 by Representative Williams, the 148th and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide for a reduction in the rate of ad valorem tax assessments of timber at sale or harvest. This resolution having been referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Chairman Noel Williams is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise today to talk to you about H.R. 96. This passed the House last year 166-0, and somehow it did not make it past signing day across the hall. This is a fair tax for timber. Standing timber is the only agricultural crop that is taxed for ad valorem tax purposes at 100%. All we're asking is this to be taxed at 40%. This legislation is about uniformity and fairness, and this would be a constitutional amendment, so we would need 120 green votes. Hope we have more than that, and it will be on the ballot in 2024 to be effective 2025, assuming we have favorable participation from you all. With that, Mr. Speaker, that's the crux of this bill, and I will stand for any questions.
Gentleman has no questions, but we do have another speaker. You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and colleagues, I appreciate your favorable consideration.
Well, the Williams boys are working together here. Let's see. Chairman Noel Williams, Representative Noel Williams, and now Representative Al Williams is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, especially for recognizing the influence and power of the Williams Caucus. Last year, I had the opportunity to speak about this same bill. Nothing really has changed. The fact is that it is needed and it brings fairness into taxation. Now, I know that the feeling usually is that timber owners are huge, very wealthy people. That's not always true. There are a lot of small timber owners where this tax really affects them. And like I told you last year, one of them happens to live in my district, and Ms. Riles owns several acres. It certainly would help her as a small landowner. As an aside, until the 50s, the largest percentage of African American landowners in Georgia lived in Liberty County. Over 48,000 acres were owned by African Americans at that time, and many of these family members are now small timber landowners. Let's equalize this. There needs to be fairness in taxation. This sends a message that you don't have to be rich like many of our land barons in this legislature to get a break. Somebody's going to know what I said when you leave here. So I urge you to vote yes for HB 96, and let's bring fairness to taxation for our timber growers in Georgia.
The gentleman yield for a question.
Yes, I will.
It's from your neighbor, Chairman DeLoach, from just down the road from you. Chairman DeLoach is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Gladly, my neighbor and friend.
I need to know if the Williams Caucus has filed with the Ethics Committee.
Well, I said it was the Williams Caucus, not the Crazy Caucus. And we really put one out and sent him to the dark side last year, Rick Williams. So those of us that are left make up a very potent, if small, minority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Chairman Meeks rise?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Rule 133, I ask to be excused from this vote.
Gentleman has that right, and the journal will so reflect. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas were 170, the nays 1. The resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 230-230?
House Bill 230 by Representative Newton of the 127th, being entitled an act to amend Chapter 8 of Title 4080 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to sales and use taxes so as to provide for a qualified consolidated government special purpose local option sales tax. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chairman Newton is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 230 that I bring to you today will allow the voters in Augusta-Richmond County to vote on a half-penny splosh to fund the construction of a new arena. Our current arena entertainment venue is 45 years old and really functionally obsolete. It lacks any of the infrastructure and amenities that you need for touring shows. The new arena will seat about 10,000 people. I know that may be small around Atlanta, but it's pretty big in our region of Georgia. And this aligns with Augusta's regional reach. The framework of this C-SPLOST mirrors the framework of SPLOST for other consolidated government, but this one is narrowly tailored and in particular emphasizes the fact that we're on a state border. That is a key point because this is a regional arena. Much of the benefit will be enjoyed just across the river from downtown in South Carolina, a growing area of North Augusta and Aiken, South Carolina. Unfortunately, with property taxes and other ways of funding, there's no way for them to really contribute to something in downtown Augusta. This would allow Augusta-Richmond County to do this. It will be financed through revenue bonds. There will be some other revenue sources, including ticket fees, naming rights, and things like that. It is supported by the entire delegation from Augusta-Richmond County, and I'm pleased to have that, plus our Augusta-Richmond County Chamber of Commerce supports. I hope you'll join with me and allow us, in particular, to allow the beneficiaries of this new infrastructure, who are often out-of-state members, to help pay for the 40% that they'll be enjoying by allowing us to do this half-penny sales tax in the Augusta-Richmond County Consolidated Government. Thank you. I'll yield for any questions, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has no questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your support. I yield the will.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Is that yours or mine? For what purpose does Chairman Prince rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it true or is it not true that though we see all this green up here, this Civic Center is named in honor of James Brown, and because of all this green, I feel good.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you for that inquiry, but I'll let you know that there's only one member allowed in this House to feel good with a singing voice, and that's Representative Sharper back there. And you didn't get to that point on that presentation. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 165, the nays 7. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Now you can feel good. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB 264?
House Bill 264 by Representative Smith of the 138th and others to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48.5.311 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to creation of county boards of equalization, duties, review of assessments, and appeals. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Vance Smith is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 264 deals with taxpayers when they have an appeal process on their property tax. Working with the tax assessors and the clerks, if you look at Section 2 first, all the way through the bill, worked on all of those items, the dates, how many days you're allowed. It's a 180-day period. Some of the dates in there have been adjusted to try to equalize and adequately appoint that time for the tax assessor's office and clerks and board of equalization. There's the section number 1, it was an addition, so that's the reason you have a substitute. But if you looked at line 241 through 246, if there's no hearing officer or they don't get a hearing scheduled during the required time, then that section 1, item C, will take effect. And if you look at that, it will give a stipulation that the taxes on the property presently will remain there successive for 2 years. There are 3 exceptions. If the taxpayer has a valuation on their return that's higher or different, or if the tax assessor goes out and on-site visit, looks at the property and sees that there's been an addition, deletions to the property, or improvements to the property, or if the taxpayer himself presents evidence to change that, whether it goes up or down. So that's basically your bill. I think this will help the taxpayer to speed that process up by adequately adjusting that time, and I would certainly ask for your favorable consideration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman yields. He has a question to your left.
Yes, sir.
Representative Jasmine Clark has a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So, in section 2, you say that we're equalizing the time, but it shows that we're actually decreasing the amount of time that the county has to, I guess, reach out to or correct changes by half. How are larger counties like Gwinnett and Fulton, how do you think this might affect them, as they might have more on their plate than maybe some of our smaller counties?
I think in equalizing that time, and there again, the tax assessors and the clerks work together hand in hand on section 2, which that's what you're talking about. But in some instances, as I was explained, the tax assessors might use of that 180-day period, they might use 130, 140 days, therefore leaving the hearing officer or maybe a clerk of court that last remaining 50, 40 or 50 days. So we're trying to make it even so that they get as much time for the hearing part as the tax assessors do.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Also, I think it's in the same section, in line 104, where we change the requirement for them to set a date for a hearing to them holding a hearing. Again, my concern is for the larger counties now making it mandatory that they get an actual hearing done in this amount of time. Have you spoken to any of these larger counties to see how they feel this might affect their ability to just do their job?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. There again, the tax assessors, there was a meeting here at the Capitol a few weeks ago, and they sat down with the clerks, and they worked out that whole section 2, and they were all in agreement. Now, I'm not going to say everybody in the whole state's absolutely satisfied, because I don't know if we ever get perfection, but they agreed to those date changes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Representative Smith, will you yield for another question?
Yes, sir.
Whip Burchett, right in front of you, has a question, if you'll yield.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for bringing the bill, Representative Smith. Just for clarity's purposes, isn't it true that 180 days is still there? It's just separated between the Board of Equalization and the first portion of the appeal, correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Whip.
So you still got 180 days. It's just which board has to act under those 90 days. And then isn't it also true that where before the Board of Equalization had 15 days to set a date, now they have 90 days to hold a hearing? That was the change that in that section. Isn't that true?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Whip. I appreciate that.
Thank you for bringing the bill.
And that was actually on line 103. It went from 15 days to 90 days. If there are no further questions, Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for your favorable consideration on House Bill 264.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 173, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 408? 408.
House Bill 408 by Representative Williamson of the 112th, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 4883 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to exemptions from sales and use tax, so as to change the sunset provision for the exemption for competitive projects of regional significance. This bill having referred to the Committee on Ways and Means, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
The gentleman from Monroe, Georgia, Chairman Williamson, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the House, I bring before you House Bill 408, LC 500497. This bill simply extends the sunset period for the projects of regional significance, extends it through the end of 2026. That's quite simply what the bill does. Happy to stand for any questions.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I ask for the body's favorable consideration. I yield the will.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 169, the nays 2. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB 227-227?
House Bill 227 by Representative Leverett of the 123rd, to be entitled an act to amend Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to crimes and offenses so as to provide for the offense of criminal interference with critical infrastructure. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Leverett to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I'm pleased today to bring to you House Bill 227, a bill that addresses a very timely topic of concern to all of us. I'm sure you all saw with me on the news back during the December, around the holiday period, when somebody as yet unknown damaged a power substation in North Carolina and plunged about 45,000 people into absolute darkness and cold during one of the coldest times or cold spells that I remember in my life. Well, that's not the only time that's happening these days. It's becoming more frequent. All over the country, apparently, some people have decided that it's open season on critical infrastructure for our utilities, and they're using that for whatever reason. We currently have some tools to deal with that kind of conduct. We have criminal damage to property statutes, and we also have domestic terrorism. But of course, not everybody does this with an intent to be terroristic to everyone. There are times when it's just simple damage, and we don't really know, for example, in North Carolina, if that was just two people seeing who was the better shot and could hit the shiny thing in the substation with their shotgun, or if it was truly someone trying to commit an act of domestic terror. So House Bill 227 would address these issues by allowing prosecutors a mid-range charge. Right now, domestic terrorism, of course, requires a lot of proof elements with respect to your state of mind and your intent and your purpose. The criminal damage to property statute does not require that, but it only has a penalty up to 10 years. So we're amending in House Bill 227 the criminal damage to property statute and adding some additional elements. If you can show that the damage to the property involved critical infrastructure or vital services and it was done intentionally by force or violence, or if it was done to electronic infrastructure by electronic means, then that constitutes a special category of criminal damage to property in first degree and can be punished by an additional 10 years. It's 2 to 20 years as a penalty. So that's what the bill does, and I feel like this is necessary at this point to send a message to those who would try to damage vital infrastructure, which can have such a more far-ranging impact than just simply damaging a piece of property. If you damage the utilities, truck depot, well, that's bad, but that generally isn't going to put 45,000 people in the dark and absolute cold during the week before Christmas. So this would give prosecutors an additional tool in their toolbox, if you will, and allow them to make a charge that has a penalty that's commensurate with the scope and breadth of the impact these kinds of crimes have. I think you may notice on your desk there are quite a number of organizations. The Georgia Chamber supports this legislation, as does a wide group of utility companies who are concerned about this very alarming trend. And we hope this will help send a message to folks that might be contemplating that they should not do it. And for those who commit it and aren't deterred, we can punish them to a degree that's commensurate with the impact and the harm they're causing to our citizens. So we believe this will protect Georgia citizens from these kinds of acts and will help deter them. So that's the bill. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield for any questions.
Gentleman yields for questions. The chair recognizes Representative Kennard to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield, yes, sir.
Has there been any incidents like this in Georgia to date?
I'm not aware that there have been any yet, but I suppose my goal is let's not wait for a few of them to happen. Let's try to be proactive and prevent them now.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
So an 18, 19-year-old that accidentally hits a critical piece of infrastructure just shooting their gun, what happens to them?
Well,
it's unintentional.
Well, if it's unintentional, the bill does require some kind of intent or intentionality with the act. So I don't believe that would fall under this particular crime. It might fall under some others, but not under this one.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question.
Representative Earhart is recognized for a question straight in front of you to the back.
Thank you, Representative. Will you yield for a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that Georgia is an amazing place to live and the #1 state in the nation to do business?
Yes, ma'am. I would agree wholeheartedly.
Will
with
you
that.
further yield?
I will yield for those kinds of questions.
Is it not true that this is a piece of legislation that will provide a much-needed extra level of deterrent to protect this amazing state that we live in and to protect our citizens?
That is certainly our intent, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Mr. Speaker,
Representative Collins, Chairman Collins is recognized for a question if you'll yield for one.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman yield?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Is it not true that throughout this state, there have been a lot of folks over the years who have probably went on power lines and went mudding and went through the four-wheel drives and do that kind of thing? And is it not true that this bill does a lot to discourage that type of behavior and hold some people more accountable for reckless behavior? with this type of issues, where you have people that might be on a power line and they got guns and they're shooting and they do damage to this type of critical infrastructure. Is it not true that this bill is going to help discourage that type of behavior throughout this state?
Well, I certainly hope it will. And I think the degree of intentionality that would require, that would suffice to support a prosecution will have to be determined in each circumstance based on those facts, but I certainly hope it will discourage any kind of reckless behavior and certainly intentional behavior that would damage that infrastructure.
Gentlemen, yield for a couple of more questions.
I'm trying not to, Mr. Speaker, but I will.
Yeah, if you don't mind, take a couple more. Representative Tran has a question to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do, yes, sir.
So as the owner of a cafe in a shopping center, I'm wondering critical infrastructure. If the bar in the shopping center, a couple of drunks get really drunk and they're pissed off at the bar owner, and they knock out the transformer and takes out the entire shopping center, would that be part of critical infrastructure?
Well, Mr. Representative, to me, the bar would be critical infrastructure. But I'm not sure, was that your question?
I'd be willing to accept that as critical infrastructure.
No, in all seriousness, given my personal preferences, the definition would not include the bar. And I believe, again, that it would get back to the degree of intent. And frankly, I don't profess to have enough knowledge of criminal law and intent in main Soraya to know, but I think if you are drunk and commit an act like this, you probably wouldn't have the requisite degree of intent. But again, I think it depends on the totality of circumstances.
Thank you, sir.
And I look forward to visiting your cafe and trying out the other businesses in the vicinity sometime soon.
Sounds good.
If the gentleman will take one more question, that would be awesome.
Ms. Speaker, I would be delighted to do that.
Representative Maynor is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yeah, I yield. Yes, ma'am.
For the pleasure of the body, I would just like to point out that this is a minimum of 2 years sentencing. For arson of a police car, it's a minimum of 5 years sentencing. For 2 or more people to do a riot, it's a minimum of 5 years sentencing. And aggravated assault with the intent to rape is 1 year. If this body please recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have one last question, and it's Representative Donahue over to your left, the gentleman from the 31st.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Is it not true, the worst whipping I think I ever had when I was 12 years old, I took a 12-gauge shotgun. I shot the power line that controlled the telephone to my house. Luckily, my father worked for Southern Bell and could fix that. But this bill's a great bill because with ill intentions, we can hurt a lot of people, and I think it's very much needed. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'm sure the representative's whipping was much worse than 2 years in any state institution.
If the gentleman will yield, I said one more, but this one's, I think this one's important as well. Chairman Martin, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Gentleman yield.
I yield, yes, sir.
You may have mentioned that, but I want to highlight it again, if I may. On line 36 of the bill, you add electronic means. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And isn't it true that we found nationally and internationally that's one of the biggest vulnerabilities to our critical infrastructure is cyber intrusion that can take out not only 40,000 people, not 100,000 people, but could it potentially take out half of the United States because of the interconnection between the electric grid, and you're addressing that in the bill. And if for no other reason isn't it true, that's a great improvement for the protection of our citizens in Georgia.
Thank you, Chairman Martin. I would agree wholeheartedly, and I wish I could claim credit for that great idea. It was brought to me after we filed the bill, but it seemed like such a good idea we couldn't resist it. So we did include that in the bill that's before you today for your approval. Thank you for that question.
Done a good job.
All right, if I have no further questions, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well and ask your favorable consideration of House Bill 227.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Whip Burchett rise?
A parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that dove hunting is one of the favorite pastimes of the state of Georgia?
I've heard that.
Isn't it also true that this bill would help some of my friends in South Georgia that can't hit them flying from shooting them off the lines?
Well, I'm sure the gentleman has practiced what he preaches from time to time, whether it be a friendly tree or a power line, no doubt about that. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 174, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you read the caption to House Bill 302.
House Bill 302 by Representative Franklin of the 160th, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16594 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to restraining orders and protective orders so as to provide for the issuance of a temporary or permanent protective order by the court. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Franklin from down in Statesboro is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill is to amend the code relating to protective orders in regards to stalking. It basically gives the judges the discretion at the time of its ordering to allow it to be temporary or permanent at that time. And that is basically all that is to the bill. But I'll tell you, as I started looking into this, I had no idea the frustration surrounding this issue. And I've come to learn that many people, or many of us in this chamber, have actually dealt with it. And if you haven't dealt with it personally, you more than likely know somebody that's dealt with this issue. So I feel like it's time that we do something about it. Stalking in its core manifests itself in intimidation, control, and fear. And I think we could all agree in this chamber that there's no place for that in Georgia. So I ask for your considerable, favorable consideration on this bill, and I yield for any questions you may have.
Gentleman yields for questions. Representative Kendrick, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Is it not true that, unfortunately, I have been a victim of stalking in years past?
If you so speak.
Does the gentleman further yield?
I do.
Is it not true that this would clarify so that judges will be able to issue permanent orders as opposed to temporary ones, therefore protecting people who might have been victims of stalking like myself?
That is absolutely correct.
Thank you.
If I just may say, a lot of the situations that I've seen, a lot of the victims have had a temporary order and they've had to come back to face their accusers for an extension. So this is an attempt to try to solve that issue.
Gentleman yield for one more question.
Yes, sir, I yield.
Leader Estration, right in front of you. He's recognized for a question if y'all will turn his mic on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman, yield.
I do, I yield.
Sir, isn't it true that under the circumstance just outlined by the representative, a victim of stalking can, under current law, only petition for protection for 12 months? And your bill's necessary so that that could actually be a permanent order at the time it's issued and provide far longer protection for that victim.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Thank you. Good bill.
Thank you.
You have no further questions.
With that, I'll yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 172, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to HB 384?
House Bill 384 by Representative Henderson of the 113th, being titled an act to amend Code Section 3329 3.2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to individual accident and sickness insurance coverage for mammograms, pap smears, and prostate-specific antigen tests. This bill having referred to the Committee on Insurance, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Representative Henderson is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am proud today to introduce HB 384. Prostate cancer is the second leading cause of death among men in Georgia. As you can see on the screen, this year alone, over 7,000 men will be diagnosed in the state of Georgia. Over 900 men will lose their battle. Those numbers are astronomical. Prostate cancer early on has no symptoms and it has no pain. Therefore, it is very important to get a PSA test done yearly. This bill, HB 384, is where the insurance companies will send notifications to men recommending having a PSA test done upon reaching age 45. Having it done at age 40 if there's a family history existing. As a breast cancer survivor myself, I can attest to the importance of early detection. We all have men in our families that we love dearly, and this legislation could save their lives. As a result of this legislation, we address you and we recommend that you just encourage your family members to be tested. My mission is to raise awareness that early detection is key, that early detection saves lives. Early detection saved my life. So I say to you today, men in the state of Georgia, please get your test done. Don't hesitate. Make time out of your busy schedule and live a cancer-free life. And today I would be remiss if I left this podium without thanking those that helped me while I was out. They assisted me. For one, Chair Lunsford, Chair Smith, Chair Sharon Cooper, Leader Beverly, Representative Carolyn Hughley that presented the bill for me while I was out. And last but not least, I'd like to thank Becky. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm thanking you diligently for your prayers while I was out as well. My daughter Angel and my wonderful husband is here to support me with this bill, and I just thank them for coming. Could you please?
Will the lady?
And thank you, Representative Williams.
Will
but
the
I
lady
thank
yield
you
for a
dearly.
question? Will you yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
Representative Jasmine Clark to your left has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does my seatmate yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So, is it not true that I never met my grandfather because he passed away from a very aggressive form of cancer? Also, my uncle died at a very young age from a very aggressive form of prostate cancer. And my father started getting his screenings much earlier than what was recommended. And because of that, he was able to get his prostate cancer. He was also diagnosed, but he was able to get his diagnosed early enough that he is now being treated for it and doing very well. Is that not true?
It's great. It's great.
Thank you.
That's perfect proof that early detection does save lives. Thank you, Representative, for that question.
Lady, yield for a couple more.
Yes, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Hagan, to your right, has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank you for bringing this bill. So often we draw attention to healthcare matters for women. And as a mom of 2 sons, I just want to thank you for bringing attention to this matter. We certainly do want to love and care for the men in our lives as well as the women. So thank you very much for bringing this bill.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Representative.
Representative Washburn is recognized for a question. They're to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentlelady yield?
Yes, I will, Representative. Thank you so much.
Is it not true that I commend you for your hard work and for bringing this excellent legislation to protect the lives of men in Georgia?
Thank you. Appreciate it, Representative.
Representative Holly is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do you yield, Mr. Warman?
Yes, I do.
I just wanted to commend you for not only just bringing this bill, but making sure that this can really be on the radar for all our families. I know that I've had to inform my father that I had a dream that he died, and literally it took about 48 hours before he got checked out. And when he went to see the doctor told him, had you come in here a day later, we would have done nothing to treat your prostate cancer. So I would like for more people to be able to get screened and not necessarily have to have the drama that I've had to go through. But I appreciate you very much.
Yes, definitely. That's proof that early detection does save lives. Early detection is key.
We're going to take 2 more, Representative, if you'll work with me.
Yes, sir,
Because
Mr.
you
Speaker.
have the screens lit
Be
up
glad
with
to.
folks encouraging this. So we're going to recognize Representative Reese for a question to your left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that this is not only an outstanding bill, but conversations of health concerns to African American males seem to be taboo quite often in our community? And this will be another opportunity for us to raise the matter to make sure that we are all aware of this dangerous, dangerous disease that hits so many of us in our community.
Yes, sir. And the American Cancer Society just verified what you said, Representative. That is true.
You have 1 more if you'll take it. Chair Lady Camp, to your extreme left over here, has a question. Ladies recognized.
Yes,
Thank you,
ma'am.
Mr. Speaker. Does the gentlelady yield?
Yes, ma'am.
My father is a prostate cancer survivor, and isn't it true that until we find a cure for the hideous thing that is cancer, prevention is our best treatment?
Yes, that's definitely true. Thank you so much for that question.
The lady has done a wonderful job. She has numerous other questions, but for the sake of us moving on today, the lady, I'm sure they'll come to you and have a direct conversation. If you will.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Great
Thank
job.
you so much for the instruction.
Great job, great bill. The lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 169, the nays 1. Congratulations. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, if you will read the caption to HB 545. 545.
House Bill 545 by Representative Cannon, the 172nd, to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 8, and Title 2 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to agricultural commodity commissions generally, so as to provide for an agricultural commodity commission for citrus fruits. This bill having referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Well, I've seen your face here before. Now we're going to, and I've heard your voice as well. So let's see what you can do up here. Representative Chaz Cannon is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise this afternoon to present to you a simple bill, House Bill 545, which would establish a citrus commission.
Gentlemen will suspend. Now, y'all need to pay special attention to a gentleman's first bill in the well. His first bill, I just wanted to make sure that y'all are paying close attention. The gentleman will continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I was saying, simple bill. It's only a page long. It would establish the Commodity Commission for Citrus, which is a growing product in the state. Several years ago, it was only 11.5 million pounds produced in the state over a few counties. And last year, basically, looking forward into the next couple of years, 500,000 pounds of produce produced over 45 different counties in the state. So it's a growing product, and the Citrus Association has requested this commodity commission so they can engage in research, promotion, and education for the product. Very low impact fiscally, if any. It's a voluntary commission. Any fees would be paid for by the folks that participate in the commission. I appreciate the bill signers that helped me carry this bill. It is my first bill, and I'll yield to any questions.
Let's see. I don't think you. Oh yeah, you do have a question. Let's see. Chairman Corbett, he knows something about this subject. See if he can give you a good question here.
Absolutely. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield to my mentor.
Is it not true that Georgia leads the nation when it comes to college football?
The gentleman so states.
I know if what to speak.
Yes, sir.
Is it not also true that Georgia leads the nation when it comes to Satsuma production?
The gentleman knows of what he speaks.
Is it not further true that the future looks really bright for both our football team and our Satsuma growers going forward, and we're going to continue to squeeze our competition for years to come?
That is a little fruity question, but the gentleman so states.
Since you mentioned fruit, I think competition wants to have a word here about this subject. Chairman Dickey is recognized for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
I yield to the chairman.
Well, this is your first bill, is that correct?
That's correct.
You're not nervous up there, are you?
No, sir.
Well, it might be a squeeze getting this bill through today. I don't know, but I am proud of our citrus industry in South Georgia. It's not the citrus state yet, I hope, but we are the peach state. Is that correct? This bill doesn't affect that, does it?
That is true.
Thank you for bringing this bill.
Aren't you glad you asked that question?
Well, you have a lot of questions, but you're close to being out of the well. Representative Becky Evans has a question. I'm sure this is a good one. The lady's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Yes. Isn't it true that one reason why our Georgia climate is producing citrus, that we're so good at producing citrus now, that it might be that our climate is changing here in Georgia?
The lady knows of what she speaks.
Yes, thank you. And may I ask another question?
I yield. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
and so isn't it true that many of us in this body hope that our state will seriously talk about all the ways that our state can better prepare for climate change that's happening?
The lady knows of what she speaks.
Thank you.
Gentleman, yield for another question.
I yield, and I can peel the love tonight.
Well, let's see how much love you get out of this one. Chair Lady Houston has a question.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Oh, state your inquiry.
Isn't it true that the Speaker in the Well is doing much better answering his questions than his predecessor did when Lita Beverly asked him a question?
The gentlelady knows of what she speaks. I agree with that.
Well, since we got that straight, let's see. We're going to take a couple more. We had one that doesn't grow satsumas. Let's see. One from the back, Chairman Carpenter. I know he can't grow.
Does
them
the
up there.
gentleman yield?
I'm not sure this question will be worth the squeeze, but I yield.
As a lover of all things Georgia produce, is it not true that our very own John Corbett's family grows what I believe are the finest satsumas in the land?
The gentleman is correct.
Chairman Meeks is recognized for a question. Then I have one, so don't leave the well yet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
Appreciate you bringing this bill. I was just reading through it, and I see that we established the commission, but nowhere in the language do we appoint anybody to be on the commission. Can you confirm where that is within the bill?
It's already in the statute. The breakdown is basically the Georgia Farm Bureau president. There's a member appointed by the House and the Senate, and also the agricultural commissioner or his designee, and then those four would select 5 members at large to serve on the commission.
Gentleman, yield for one more question.
I yield.
If Chair has a question, if you don't mind. Gentleman yields. Where is
yield.
this industry located in Georgia?
It's across 45 counties, Mr. Speaker.
And where are those counties?
In the lower part of the state. The southern part of the state.
Gentleman yield.
I yield.
How far up in Georgia do these counties exist that produce this?
As far north as the Effingham County, Mr. Speaker.
Making sure you knew that Bullock County and the Franklins grow a lot of these little precious gems over there as well. Good job, gentlemen. You've done a good job your first time. Let's see how your vote comes out.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objections to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. For what purpose does Chairman Martin rise? Can you help him?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
It appears the gentleman needs some help. Is that not true?
That is very true.
Earlier, isn't it true, Mr. Speaker, earlier in the presentation, the gentleman to my left over here mentioned the proclivity of the Georgia Bulldogs to win national championships, and we're all proud of that. Isn't that true, Mr. Speaker?
The gentleman so states.
Isn't it true that if you're a Georgia Bulldog fan, Mr. Speaker, in general, you hate most things orange? That would be Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, and Clemson. So isn't it further true that if the gentleman would, through a parliamentary inquiry, say that this group is going to work on breeding a special Satsuma mandarin fruit that could be, say, more red, he might see less red. Isn't that true?
I'm sure the gentleman believes when he gets way out there that he believes what he's saying anyway, so we'll say it that way. For what purpose does the gentleman from the 16th, Representative Kelly, rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true by looking at the board, the gentleman may not have the juice to get us over the finish line?
I'm sure the gentleman looks correct anyway. Let's see, we're going to take one more, another mountain guy, maybe two more, two mountain guys. Gentleman from the 9th, Representative Wade. I'm sure he's got something on this one.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
I just want the sponsor of the bill to know that I'm very willing to turn my vote from red to green. If he could enlighten me, and if I missed it, I apologize, the number of Georgians that would qualify to be on this commodity commission. I know that the Chairman Smith wants to know how many Georgians are impacted, and I appreciate the chairman and his effort to make sure this is in the best interest of all Georgians. But I have no idea how many folks live in those 45 counties that would do this. And if you want to tell me offline, I'll probably give you my green vote.
I hope y'all will communicate. You know, we're burning daylight, y'all, but we're going to take one more question, one more inquiry. For what purpose does Representative Jason Ridley rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that I may need to take this young man and teach him what reconsideration means by looking at this board?
You have a reputation here for being a great parliamentarian, and I'm sure you could probably help him. On the... Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 172, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. I've never had too much fun, but that was close. We're going to go on to HB 273. We're going to break here in just for a few minutes. So let's move on and give your attention to HB 273. The clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 273 by Representative Deloach, the 167th, to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 12 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions relative to the Department of Natural Resources so as to extend the date by which rules and regulations prescribed by the Board of Natural Resources must be in effect for purpose of establishing criminal violations. This bill having referred to the Committee on Natural Resources and Environment, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Members, this bill was on yesterday's calendar, and we postponed until today, and the gentleman has patiently waited to present the bill. Chairman Deloach is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This mic was up pretty high. I don't know who was here before me, but it must have been pretty tall. This is a Natural Resources, Department of Natural Resources bill. Section 1 simply moves forward the date from January 1, 2022 to January 1, 2023, so the department can continue to enforce their rules and regulations. The Section 2 deals with the Sapelo Island Heritage Authority. It simply changes the makeup of the authority very slightly. It allows the governor currently serves, and it allows the governor or his or her designee to serve on the board. The commissioner continues to serve on the board. The executive director of State Properties Commission continues to serve. Formerly, the Commission on Human Relations in the governor's office had a seat, and that Commission on Human Relations in the governor's office has gone away. So we take that seat and give it to a resident of the Hog Hammock community on Sapelo Island, so they now have 2 residents serving. The only other thing this bill does is removes the governor as the chairman of the authority, and he becomes the vice chairman, and the commissioner of natural resources becomes the chair. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield the well and go to lunch.
You're a smart man, but we do have a speaker to assist you before you go to lunch. Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I certainly thank the author for this bill. On Sapelo Island, Hog Hammock is the last remaining Gullah Geechee conclave in the entire United States. For many, many years, the residents there have been able to identify themselves with a direct lineage to the west coast of Africa. Many, many good things have happened. That's why it is a beautiful, pristine place. And the reason for this bill and the reason for the commissioner becoming the chairman, as the author has said, is because the governor is just not able to meet often enough because of other responsibilities. And the commissioner, and we have several rangers over there, is able to do this. And the people over there need to be heard. There are many things they need. And as you know by our bill that has been introduced also by the author, McIntosh County is economically a very depressed area. And it is vitally important. The county is doing some things, but it's important that the state is able to hear directly, particularly from the descendants of Sapelo, Hog Hamlet. I support this bill. There's no such thing as a perfect bill. I've seen very few come out of this house. Every once in a while we do get a perfect one. But there are some things that we would have liked to have seen, but this is probably as good a bill as we're able to get out of here and give the kind of representation and audience to the members of Hog Hammock that is so necessary. When I first came to the legislature, I represented St. Simon's Island. I told some folk this morning, at that time there were 23 votes on that island. I got 22 of them. I'm still looking for that one traitor, but this is an extremely important bill, and I ask for your support of it. Thank you.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 171, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. One last bill we're going to take up, House Bill 244. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Bill 244?
House Bill 244 by Representative Petrie, the 166 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 entitled 27 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions relative to game and fish, so as to extend the date by which rules and regulations prescribed by the Board of Natural Resources must be in effect for the purposes of establishing criminal violations. This bill having referred to the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
The gentleman from the coast, Chairman Petrie, is recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring you House Bill 244. Great to follow my good friend Representative Loach from the coast with another coastal bill. For those of you that weren't here in 2019, we were able to pass the oyster mariculture bill that year. Most of the provisions in here relate to that, but I want to go through the bill, try to very briefly explain to you what's in here. The first thing I want to point out was an amendment made in committee, which is Section 2, which basically now will allow electronic calls for hunting bobcat and fox in this state. That would be during season. We already have a season, as most of you, or some of you that may be in more urban sites may not be aware. They're a game species, and we are going to expand and allow electronic calling for hunting that game animal. When you leave that section, you go to the real kind of meat of the bill as it began, which relates to coastal issues, and you'll see on lines 45 to 48 there. What we're doing here, seafood dealers have to report to the Department of Natural Resources, Coastal Resources Division, all of the harvest and the sales of shellfish and shrimp, things of that nature. All seafood has to be reported monthly to the department so they can track these sales and populations. We have some dealers who have decided that if they don't have any activity, they simply don't have to report. And of course, the conundrum for the department is they don't know whether they're not reporting and violating the requirement or if they actually have no activity at all. So what we do right here is make it very clear that if you have no activity, you still have to monthly report that non-activity. So that is what we do in the first part of the bill. In Section 4, we redefine cage. So when I passed the mariculture bill in here in 2019, what the industry generally, remember, we grow oysters when we farm them in the intertidal zone in cages. And at the time, we used individual cages. The new technology, to use that term, is that we have a multitude of smaller cages inside one aggregate larger cage. And so you see a change of definition there. In Section 5, you see we're basically dealing with our master harvesters and then our harvesters that work under master harvesters to grow and harvest shellfish. And what we're doing here, on line 81, you'll see there, and then on the other section as well, we're changing shall language by the department to may language. The reason we're doing that is to give the department the ability to determine whether or not they need to deny a permit, or in the next section, to revoke a permit based on an infraction. There are smaller infractions the department would not want to be compelled to remove someone's permit for. So we're giving discretion to the department. Very important I point out, however, because we're talking about oysters, on line 85 to 87, you'll see the shall language remains on certification from the Department of Agriculture. So anything that relates to food safety, those violations, loss of certification, they would still lose their permit. And then finally, Section 7, Mr. Speaker, eliminates the cage fee altogether. In the original bill, we put a $1 fee on each cage, and we're eliminating that altogether because of the new system. Mr. Speaker, that's as fast as I can go through that bill, and I'm glad to answer any questions if I wasn't clear in any way.
I think you were clear, but you do have a question. Representative Saines, Chairman Saines from the coast, needs some clarification.
Yeah, my good friend.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do indeed.
As this bill is vitally important to the vitality of Georgia's seafood industry, would the gentleman clarify that the best seafood in this state can be found in the Golden Isles?
Well, at risk of, let me do this, at the risk of losing your vote. The best seafood in this country can be found on the Georgia coast. We can agree on that, Representative, that's for certain.
Till we got to defining areas, I didn't have this question. I've been looking for it, though. The gentleman knows probably more about oysters than anybody in this House. Representative Al Williams has a question.
I will agree with that.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this bill helps resurrect the oyster harvesting business in Georgia that for years has been almost dominant?
Yes, sir. I believe that to be true, sir.
Is it not further true that there's never been a question the best tasting oysters in America are found on the coast of Georgia.
Representative, you are correct.
And is it not true that with this we will be able to have an oyster that is even more restaurant quality, because we're not known for our beauty, just our taste? And is it not true that the McIntosh oyster that is served at the Ocean Air is picked in McIntosh County by Ernest McIntosh?
I believe that is true, Representative, and I agree wholeheartedly with all of your comments. Mr. Speaker?
I have to take one more.
Okay.
And that's from another gentleman from the coast. We're not convinced yet, but Chairman Deloach, finish this one off.
Does the gentleman yield?
I do, sir.
Let's get a little more specific, if you don't mind, about oysters. Isn't it true that the finest delicacy that our Creator ever created is the Harris neck cluster of small oysters?
That is absolutely true, Representative Deloach. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to say one final thing. The only thing keeping us, I want this body to know this, the only thing keeping us from farming oysters today, everything we passed has been implemented, is the Corps of Engineers. The federal government delays are the only thing keeping us from farming oysters today. When they finally do that, this will be yet another way to help us to continue to move expeditiously to farming oysters in Georgia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield to Will.
Gentleman has no questions. I think you've shucked that one. We're ready to move on. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And the clerk will unlock the machine. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas were 170, the nays 0. The bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. We have a couple of a couple of announcements. We'll start with the chairman of the Rules Committee, Chairman Richard Smith.
Good thing y'all not voting on my message. Rules will meet at 1:30. 1:30.
Representative Dewey McLean is recognized for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, we're coming back at 1:30, so you all better get to room 307 for the Working Family Caucus and get you some lunch for you can get back at 1:30. So room 307, and today we'll be talking about mental health legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Y'all may want to listen to this one now. This next announcement is Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, Chairman Matt Hatchett.
Thank you. Those of you who are members of the Appropriations Committee, you've received an email probably while we were in here that we will be meeting today at 4. Hopefully we're through in here. If not, we'll do what we got to do. But we'll be meeting at 4 in room 341. We've got 4 compensation resolutions that we need to have resolved. Thank you.
Chairman, you're the only one that controls what we do. You have the only priority this House has to take care of. So we'll be there. Chairman Williamson, recognized for an announcement.
There'll be a majority caucus lunch in room 403 during the lunch break.
If you have a page, we're going to take page photos right up here. So here's what we're going to do. We'll be back. We'll recess until 1:45. That's quarter to 2. 1:45. Be back here at 1:45, and we'll get started again. This house is in recess until 1:45.